What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about Iconic Arcade because we actually have something to talk about. No, I'm not talking about emails that went out to people that got their pre-orders in, asking them to pick their favorite side art. No, I'm talking about everyone who didn't pre-order this cabinet. We have something to talk about because we've all had questions that needed to be answered before we decided to put down our hard-earned money. Now, when I saw this thing back in January, CES 2025, it was a pretty cool experience to kind of get there on the ground floor at the launch of this product. I even got to actually put one of these cabinets together. It was pretty cool to get that peek under the hood. And while these things look great, one being Street Fighter 2 with all that wild 90s artwork, and the other being Street Fighter Alpha 2 with kind of a custom look and white T-molding, they look great, but under the hood, these were very much prototypes. It wasn't all quite a fit and finish the way that you would expect a production model to be. And that was fine for a prototype. But when it comes to a production model, what are we going to get? Questions about the UI remain. Questions about, the games list, the physical construction of the cabs. Where was the seam going to be on the side? Button placement. All these things were sort of out there, lingering. And then months went by. Pre-orders went live. Pre-order holders were allowed to put down just half the money of $350, total price being $700, with the promise of, hey, we're not going to bill you the remaining $350 until this thing ships in June. Well, June came and went, and that release date, that ship date, actually gets pushed to Q4 of 2025. But then people were getting automatically billed for the second half, and that wasn't supposed to happen until the cab shipped, and people were upset, deservedly so. So it was really rocky, definitely a rocky start. But the biggest problem, I think, that has been, besides people getting charged $350 that they weren't planning on, was the complete lack of new information, new developments, product updates. I mean, anytime you back a product on like a Kickstarter, or if there is a pre-order with an extended time before you actually ship the product, there's usually some sort of update. Hey, this is the final thing. These are all decisions. The decisions have been made, and here you go. That process didn't happen. And it was interrupted by rumors of some kind of legal issues with Arcade 1-Up, and I don't even know if any of that's true, but there was definitely something going on behind the scenes that had everybody very tight-lipped over at Iconic Arcade. But now, I guess the lips are ready to flap and tell us exactly what's going on. Is it too little, too late, because the pre-orders are down and we can't pre-order this? Well, we'll talk about that at the end of the video. But let's go ahead and get into some of these images that I was sent by Iconic Arcade. I had a great little back and forth today, got some questions answered. I want to share with you what they've shared with me. Let's start with this first image. And this is the image of the control panel for the Street Fighter 2 variant of the Iconic Arcade XXL. And nothing really surprising here. Everything seems to be in place. You got the player 1, player 2, and the select buttons because this is going to have a Raspberry Pi, and you're going to have extra buttons to kind of navigate through some of these menus. And then you also have the power button, which is just like a cycle down. It's not a hard stop. It's not a true kill switch. That is located next to the monitor on the right-hand side. That's in the same place that was on the original prototype. And then you have a volume dial right there on top. I think, in my opinion, better than that momentary switch left and right. I like the dial better. Okay, so moving on to the next image. This is obviously going to be the Street Fighter Alpha 2 version with the white T-molding and that Capcom sort of graphite looking color. I like the way that this looks. The buttons are a little bit lighter than I think they're going to be in real life because, remember, these are just renders. These are not actual images of the cabinets themselves. They're just renders. And but that's very much in line with what you would see with, typical arcade, Capcom arcades from the 90s. My Big Blue Alien vs. Predator has the same sort of look to it as far as that texture is concerned. White T-molding, all the other buttons are in place. Here you can plainly see what's on front, and that is that little black box off to the right. That is going to be your 2 USBs, because remember, this is a Raspberry Pi, so you can plug in and do what you got to do with those USBs. Now, one thing I wanted to point out is something that was pointed out in the call that I had today, and it's not just going to be a control panel that's screwed down like a traditional Arcade 1-Up style. It is going to be screwed down, but you're going to have an additional sort of layer of protection between the control panel and the actual plexiglass that's over the monitor, and that's going to be this rubber seal. You can kind of see I have it outlined with these 2 white lines, and this is very much reminiscent of what you would see on old cabinets. I mean, going back to my Big Blue and even my Big Red, there's this sort of rubber weather stripping that's stuck onto the control panel But that's usually there because it's hinged. And when you close that down, that hardwood or hard metal control panel pushing up against that glass, in the case of a real arcade, yeah, you might have a chance to scratch that or break that. And you want that to be nice and firm anyway to keep all that in place. So that's another little piece that they've added, something initial, something different to the design that I wanted to point out that could be kind of cool or it could be sort of unnecessary. But it's nice to see a little bit more of an homage or a inspiration from the actual arcades from back in the day. Now here's the big ticket item. This is the overall dimensions. Yes, they have changed. So what you're looking at now is the image that's all in black is on the left-hand side is the original CES version of these iconic XXLs, these cabinets here. So you're looking at the overall size has changed dramatically, about an inch taller, and the marquee is a little bit taller. But you can see there's something really big going on here. And it's not just the half inches of bigger monitor you have. It's the width. And the width is a big thing. Now, a lot of people were totally fine with the 22.2 inches that was stock on that control panel, on the width of the cabinet itself. A lot of people were fine with that. That was in line with what we saw with XLs from Arcade 1-Up. This is going to be wider, and it's not just wider. If you look at the control panel itself, instead of being just 7.5 inches deep, it's now 9 inches deep. So you're almost at 24 feet or 24 inches wide, not 24 feet. That would be like a bass boat. That's not what we have here. With a 23.5 inches wide. Now that is going to be the exact same dimension of the control panel on my Atari System 1, my Road Blasters cabinet over here, and it's also the same width as my Neo Geo Big Red back there. So this is very much in line with full-size arcades. And what I love about this, and I absolutely love this, is that they are prioritizing, much like the arcade builders did back in the day, they are prioritizing space between the first and second player. Because when you have a two-player arcade cabinet that's really meant for two players, you want as much width as you can possibly have. So that's where that measurement comes from. And that's where the XXL moniker kind of comes from also. This is not just a XL cabinet from Arcade 1-Up. It's not that size. This is bigger. It's definitely bigger. So it's going to be the same width as an original Dynamo HS1, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. And the extra depth on that control panel is just going to be more real estate for you to rest your hands, rest your palms while you're gaming. This is definitely dedicated to, the concept of the thought of, hey, we're actually going to have two people. It's not going to be a single player experience that you can kind of have a second player there. No, this is very much a fighter's cab, one player and two player. But this also begs to question. If you look at this, you see there's also a half-inch increase in the monitor size. Well, what does that mean? Did they go out? Are you telling me that Iconic Arcade went out and sourced or paid to have developed a 19.5-inch 4x3 monitor? That's insane. No, that's not is what's going on here. Now, what I'm about to say was not verbally confirmed to me, but looking at these dimensions and knowing the conversations that I had with Iconic months ago, they are not using a 19.5-inch 4x3. They are using a 24-inch 16:9 monitor. If you look at the overall dimensions, if you go to Best Buy, you can see the overall dimensions of the actual of a monitor that's 24 inches, and it's going to be about 21.5 inches. That's going to fall in line with the overall width of the cabinet. But if you check out this little image that I have here, this is from DisplayWars.com. This is a great place. It's a good resource to go to if you just want to plug in different screen sizes and see how they compare to other screen sizes out there. This is going to accommodate different ratios as well, 4x3, 16:9. In this case, as you can see, if you compare a theoretical 19.5-inch 4x3 display, it will fit within the overall size of a 24-inch 16:9, which means that they're actually going to be rocking a 16:9 behind the scenes. Here's another little image here. You scroll down, you can see these are all the overall dimensions, the comparisons. This will absolutely fit within that 24-inch monitor. And the good thing about the 24-inch 16:9 is that it is absolutely going to be cheaper than trying to get a 4x3 19-inch. So we're getting a little bit more viewable size than the standard 19. And and we're also probably getting a cheaper monitor, because I can guarantee you that a 24-inch 16:9 panel is a lot cheaper than a 19-inch 4:3. And that's going to be good, hopefully to keep the cost down, and also maybe make replacements, knock on wood, if you ever need one, make those much more readily available. Now, if you go back to the other image, and that's what we'll do now, looking at the overall look of this with those bezels, you're probably going to say, wow, those are some wide bezels, and that's true. But every 19-inch monitor equipped arcade from back in the day that was two-player, and not even two-player. Like I said, my Atari System 1 cabinet, my Road Blasters cabinet, is exactly that same width on the inside. They prioritized the player experience, giving you as much width as possible. And so the borders on the left and right, well, they didn't really matter. But beyond that, I did have another image I wanted to show you. This is the button placement as compared to an original Dynamo HS1. You can see the lines here. Everything lines up perfectly on the new Iconic Arcade HS1. The image on the very bottom, there's three images here. The one on the very bottom is the original CES layout. It just wasn't quite there. And you can see some of the layout, even some of the, well, unfortunately, some of the labeling there is kind of covering up the original layout of those top buttons. But the button placement overall of the Player 1, Player 2, and then Select buttons is also, I think, in a better place, too. I like it when everything is just sort of in line. And you can see with everything in line that the control panels are almost exactly the same, everything being slightly offset just to one side to kind of make these buttons, you know, be sort of centered perfectly inside this cabinet. So at the end of the day, what does all this mean? I mean, it may be too little too late, right? For those of us who didn't pre-order the cabinet. If you're excited about what you've seen, well, what the hell does it matter if I can't pre-order the cab? Well, over on Michael B's channel, he also mentioned that, hey, they're going to allow some of these cabinets to go on another pre-order closer to the release over on Amazon. So we're going to get another chance maybe to jump in on this. But are these breadcrumbs enough for you to get excited to maybe take the chance and pre-order this cabinet? I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. All the questions have not been answered. I'd love to see a full video showing off and showcasing that UI. I want to see a full games list. Of course, maybe keep a couple games secret. That's okay. You want to have some unlockables. And then I want to see some of the stuff under the hood. How does all those unfinished parts look completely finished? I'm excited to see that. And I will say that, you know, maybe not all my questions have been answered, but some of the big ones absolutely have been. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think about this in the comments section below. Everybody, have a blessed day, and I will see all of you next time. Now, how am I going to... I got to sell another cabinet. I think I'm excited about it again.